the end of June 2018, I quit my job as a teacher of A-level history of art and photography. I'd been doing it for 17 years, and having attained the age of 50 the week before I quit, I thought it was time for a change. 5 days later, me and my friend, fellow musician Chris Quinn, set off for France for the Django Reinhardt Festival in what I thought was going to be Samois-sur-Seine. Samois-sur-Seine near Paris was the village where legendary gypsy jazz guitarist Django Reinhardt had settled down shortly before the end of his life. Ever since watching a documentary called The Django Legacy when I was in my early 20s, I'd always wanted to go. But it wasn't only gypsy jazz that was on our minds. Me and Chris are both committed European Remainers and both fervently against the decision that was made for Britain to leave the European Union. We were both very much aware that this could be the first and last time we would be going to the Django Festival without the complications of Britain being a non-European state. As we approached Dover, we passed a huge queue of trucks all waiting to get on boats to trade freely across Europe. We wondered what the queue would look like if all these trucks were held for checks and inspections of their goods and paperwork.
The white cliffs of Dover. What a paradox they are. One way, symbols of English resilience and independence, and then on the other hand, this port, this gateway to Europe. We've just driven past 5 miles of trucks all piled up on the side of the road waiting to get into Europe to trade with our European partners. I just wonder what this place is going to look like in 8 months' time on Brexit Day. Free world, eh?
So behind me, Dover Castle, founded by William the Conqueror. He was a Norman. The Normans themselves were actually Vikings, Norse men. So he was an invader to Britain. Who was already here? Anglo-Saxons, Jutes, Danes. What is it to be English? And then if you look this side, we've got the white cliffs of Dover, paradoxical emblem of Englishness. What is Englishness? Anglo-Saxon, Norman, Jute, Viking. What are you? So without any let or hindrance, we arrived in France and headed south towards Paris. The festival in Samois-sur-Seine began in 1968, the year of my birth and 15 years after the death of Django. I still thought we were heading for Samois, but I was in for a surprise.
So it's our first night here at Samois-sur-Seine, except we're not at Samois, we're at Fontainebleau. The festival has moved places, and it means that we have to get a navette, which is a shuttle bus, all the way up from Samois. Anyway, so tonight on the bill, the big star is George Benson, but people are saying he might not be playing. So everybody's very tense because they're not quite sure whether he's well enough to play or not. I'll tell you later whether he does. But anyway, I'm looking forward to going in our first night at Not Samois.
But George did make it and seemed in quite good form in his glossy suit. He played some great guitar and crooned through some of his old hits.
Answers to my questions in your eyes. I can see the reasons why our love's alive. In your eyes, we're drifting safely back to shore. I think I finally learned to love you more.
At Fontainebleau there are two stages. The main one featured the bigger names and was fairly eclectic in terms of styles of jazz. People like George Benson, Marcus Miller, Snarky Puppy. The smaller of the stages had more traditional jazz manouche ensembles, with less well-known and on the whole younger artists. I admired the group of jazz musicians known as Django Legacy. Here is a great solo from Simba Baumgartner, who is Django's great-grandson.
So here we are, Django's tomb.
Well, we couldn't be in the vicinity of Samois-sur-Seine without visiting Django's resting place, could we? His gravestone says he was born 1910 and died in 1953, making him just 43. Some say his actual date of birth was never recorded, so who knows? He shares the tomb with his wife Lucien, his brother Joseph, who played rhythm guitar in the band, and his son Babik, who features heavily in the Django Legacy documentary that so inspired me all those years ago. So here is Chris, paying his respects to the great Django Reinhardt. At the campsite at Samois, just a couple of kilometres from Samois, the jams continue 24 hours a day. People from all over Europe and the world mingle freely to produce some stunning improvised music. There are no barriers here, just the joy of meeting and playing with people from other countries and backgrounds. It brought it home to us just how inhibiting being cut off from Europe could be.
Why do we want to exclude ourselves from all this?
It's bizarre.
Pan-Europeanism, this internationalism.
But also, you know, we're just talking about gypsy jazz music right now, but it's the same for every industry. It's not just jazz music, it's every sector, every type of business is international nowadays. You know, it really is. Everything is cross-border. Anyone that does anything needs this
you know, it's a small continent, you know, and to exclude yourself from it is insane.
Let's ask them to play the International.
Yeah. It's kind of sad, you know. So I'm watching this and enjoying it, but I'm also very sad about Brexit. You know?
So it's my last day here at Samois, which is just near to Samois-sur-Seine. I'm sitting in my tent at the campsite. I don't know if you can hear all the music that's going on, but it's been incredible really how much jamming there's been and what quality it's been as well. It's just a cacophony of gypsy jazz music. I think the fact that the festival has now moved to Fontainebleau is a bit of a shame in a way. Apparently when it was at Samois on the island it was just fantastic. I suppose another thing is that at Fontainebleau the programme has not really been dedicated to gypsy jazz. There's been a lot of world music and other types of jazz. Getting to Fontainebleau has been really difficult as well. Lots of buses that don't show up, and overcrowded buses and so on. But I think overall it's been a really positive experience. I'll definitely come again and recommend it to anybody. Just listen to all that going on now. So in conclusion, I would say that my own personal opinion is that there is never a good time to be putting up barriers. On the contrary, barriers, borders and walls should be minimised as far as possible to allow for the cross-fertilisation of ideas and cultures. Surely music, trade, industry and culture can only benefit from openness. I will leave you with Birelli Legren and Stocklow Rosenberg, two of the greatest living exponents of the jazz manouche style, playing part of the Django Reinhardt classic Minor Swing.